The next topic, which is going to spark a whole ton of controversy, if I do say so myself.
Okay.
It's about children in YouTube.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, so families and children doing YouTube.
Exactly. So it's about families and YouTube and children and YouTube, that kind of.
What's your opinion on this?
So
children
I have
being on YouTube as YouTube stars.
Yeah. So this is a tough one. This is a really, really tough one. I personally think, and I look at it as like, it's so hard because I personally don't think that parents should be necessarily putting their children in that environment. Yeah. Because one, we talked about this before, like what you post on social media doesn't go away. So like that's with you for the rest of your life. Also, I think especially like young children, they don't have a conscious choice, if you know what I mean. Like, and also they're unduly, there's like a word for it, but you know, someone that's like in a position of power to you, such as your parents, such as a doctor or whoever else, they have undue influence on your decisions. So like as a child, you're not going to be able to make that conscious decision as to, I don't want to do this. So you're going to go along with it, right? Because it's your parents telling you, like, let's film some videos. And then also it comes into effect is, and this is a little bit more kind of like on the business side of it, but then I was just saying, if your parents are managing your social media presence and you are very successful and making a ton of money, well, where is that money going? Do you know what I mean? Also, because then it comes into the question is, are your parents exploiting you to earn money?
It's true. And do you think yes?
I mean, I think they're probably parents that are having their children in the social media space. And again, I'm talking about like very, very young children because again, they don't have this consciousness as to whether or not they want to be online or not, and whether or not they want the whole thing broadcasted. Now, the reason I was having difficulties in the beginning, but now that I'm thinking about this topic, is because I was thinking about child stars that become movie stars, right? Yeah. But then I thought to myself, because, okay, so there's two things about child movie stars. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's kind of similar, but quite different than YouTube children as well. Okay. Number one, a child movie star is doing a distinct movie project that has a script that's for a movie. It's not their life. It's not their personal shit that's going on. It's an actual movie, okay? Yeah. It's not like YouTube. So it's different in that aspect. And then number two, we've seen this in many, many aspects with child stars in films. What happens to them when they get older?
They get fucked over.
Exactly. Nine times out of 10, look at like big famous, especially really big famous child stars. Britney Spears, Lindsay Lohan, Drew Barrymore, all of these people thrown into the limelight, Macaulay Culkin, at very, very young ages. And I'm not saying this happens to everyone, but it happens to so many of them.
The majority.
And I'm just saying, and that's just for them being in the movie spotlight, right? So imagine the impacts that we don't even know yet because YouTube's still so young, what the impacts of having your kids thrown into the social media spotlight when they get older, what that's going to do to them. Because again, going back to what I mentioned before about how social media and everything releases that drug called dopamine. When you get the likes, when you get the comments, it makes you feel good, right? And you're exposing young children to this at a young age that they're going to have throughout their whole life. What's that going to do?
They're probably going to have extremely low self-esteem and constantly need validation through means that don't actually give you the real, feelings that you would get from like real validation, I guess. But they need that constant like fake validation from online, from people that they don't even know. And I don't know. I mean, there's probably some other major impacts that we don't know about.
But exactly, and this is the thing. It's also, because YouTube, like you mentioned before, it's like, 10, 15, maybe 15 years old, right? Yeah. And it's not been around long enough to see what those impacts are going to be. So I think it's different than, like, for example, like some of my friends have kids. They'll post like a picture of their family on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Like, very, very different. It's like a controlled, like, I don't know. It's a different kind of...
It's Facebook, very different.
Exactly. Versus family
vlogs.
Exactly. But this is it. Like, and I have to question, like, I'm sorry, but like, even if I became, and I'm saying this, obviously it's easier for me to say this because I'm not a famous YouTuber or whatever else, but like, I think that, again, I'd want that separation of my private life, and I wouldn't want my kids exposed to that. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, I think you would definitely, if I had kids, for sure, I would not. I mean, maybe I might show their face in in a video.
Or
But
an Insta
I don't
story or
want
something.
them exactly. I don't want them to be to be in the limelight. I don't want them to be broadcast and their lives to be broadcast to the public and shown to every single person. And it's just so I feel like this is obvious, and I'm shocked that that we have to even say this, but there's so many channels out there, family channels, that are literally making millions of dollars from showing their kids' lives every single day and having their kids like parade around with cameras, and it's fucked.
It's really messed up. I mean, it just, and again, like I just don't see why, as a parent, and it's hard for us to say because we're not parents, but again, I feel so strongly about this, but like as a parent, or if I was a parent, like I wouldn't want my kids on YouTube. Like I wouldn't want them, especially like young kids, like, having them like 3 years old and their first dating experience and have the vlog in their face and like all this stuff. And it's kind of like, okay, like, come on. Like, and again, it's like, pick and choose, but like there's some videos of little children, like little kids that their parents have put up that are actually really adorable. It's a short snippet. It's nothing crazy, but we're talking about
like the Korean girl.
This is what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Like her parents, they only put like one little snippet of a funny behavior. That's it. Yeah. Okay, fine. But like we're talking about like families that are making millions, basically exploiting their children. Like, I'm sorry, I know that sounds really bad, but that's essentially what they're doing, right? Like, you're talking families that have multiple Instagram accounts, multiple YouTube channels based on their children.
Yeah. And, like, I always think, I'm like, are they even allowed to technically, don't you have to be like 18 to join Instagram and YouTube and all that stuff? It's like, technically, they should not really be even allowed to have a channel that is centered around them.
But exactly, that's where I'm like, but again, this is where I think that government regulation and things needs to start stepping in and being like, actually, you know what? It's like, and I talk about child stars again with like movies and stuff. I do think it's slightly different. Whereas with YouTube, I just think like, you're right. You're supposed to be, I'm pretty sure for Instagram, you're supposed to be over 18. So like there needs to be a bit more regulation on that, because how do all these like little kids have accounts and stuff? Like, And
I think like also, I think going back to the whole regulation thing, I think nowadays, now they have a new thing. There is a new thing called, I can't remember what it was called, but it's about, finally, I think YouTube, I think a lot of people are not happy about this because, YouTube kind of fucks up anyways also, but I think overall it's probably needed. It's about advertising to children. So now actually things might change within the whole, have you heard about this, Daniel?
Well, I did see the thing on, for example, on our YouTube channel, like I was posting some videos and now you have to specify if it's made for kids or not.
Yeah, so that wasn't there before, and now it's there because now if your channel is solely, for kids, intended for kids, then I think you get very limited ads, or maybe you're not allowed ads, and I think you're not allowed comments and stuff like that. So basically, because there's so many of these kids channels that we don't even know about, Daniel, that literally are getting millions, if not billions of views. And they are advertising directly pretty much to children.
Which is so bad.
And it's illegal on television, I'm pretty sure. Like, there's laws against it on television.
Yeah. Well, I think this is where government needs to crack down and step in. And, also as an online community, because obviously the YouTube space is so huge that like it's impossible space for like government to navigate anyway, but people need to start like probably reporting those videos and stuff. You know what I mean? Like if that is the case, because, they shouldn't be advertising to 3-year-olds. Do you know what I mean? Like that's watching a YouTube video with their like mom or whatever. And like, it's just so bad. Oh God. It's just, it's
and
just
is it a coincidence that a lot of these family vlogging channels seems to have like 15 billion children?
Well, this is the thing, exactly. We could,
Daniel?
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
Yeah. I said about you were talking about how it's interesting that the families have more than one children or more than one child,
Yes. And they constantly just keep getting, they're very fertile people. They just keep getting more and more pregnant.
Exactly. And then all those kids will have their own channels and Instagram accounts from the day that they're born, which
I
again,
would question if I were a parent in that situation, which I wouldn't be because I wouldn't do that. But if I were, I would question my desire to have children, because I think even if I'm sure that they actually do want to have more children, but I think subconsciously, on a subconscious level, you would probably still consider, if I had another child right now, I could get so many more views through a birthing video, through, a pregnancy announcement video. I mean, wouldn't you question that?
I would. And it does really bother me, because I just feel like those kids aren't making a conscious decision. Like, they are being, these children on these channels are technically being exploited. Like, I'm sorry, the parents could argue and say, well, no, we had a conversation with them. I'm like, okay, they're 3 years old. Like, they're not comprehending what you're throwing down. Yeah. It's like when you're signing a legal contract. So there's a few things that you have to have. I think it's like compass state of mind. Like, you have to be in the right state of mind. So you can't be under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and you have to be over the age of 18, right? So to enter a legally binding contract. And it's the same for these like young kids that are on these like YouTube channels. It's like, you can have that conversation as much as you want with a 5-year-old. They are not going to comprehend anything.
Yeah.
Really.
Because like, they're not going to know what's going to happen. And they don't even realize the extent of what's happening. Like how many people are watching, and what that's going to do to your career later on. And oh my God, I don't know. It's crazy.
There's just so many, and we don't even know, because it's only been like the 10, 15 years of YouTube. We're only when we get into our probably like 40s, right?
Yeah.
That we're going to start seeing these kids of YouTube become adults, and it's going to be crazy. Like, I mean, we're going to see maybe they'll start their own mental breakdown channels and, honestly, all this like crazy stuff. Like,
cause like they're going to get older. People are going to be less interested in them because they're not as cute. It's like child stars, right? Like, like you mentioned, child actors, a lot of them, unfortunately, a lot of kids that are really cute when they're young, unfortunately are, we become adults and, we get uglier. That's what happens. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of them, they get uglier or and not uglier. They just get older and less interesting. Exactly. So the one thing that made them interesting, which was the fact that they were a cute little child, is no longer interesting. So now they're gonna, what are they fucking gonna do?
Exactly. I mean, it bothers me on so many levels, because it's like this whole idea of exploitation, and like it just it's more like a frustrating thing, because it's like, you're not giving these people, like, it would be like, for example, me, if I looked back and my parents had done this to me, for example, they had put me all over social media growing up from the moment I was born. I have my own Instagram account. I have my own, all of this stuff. None of my life was private. And now I'm an adult. I would be pissed off. Right. I would be like, you talk about like, adolescence and stuff. I would just be like, like, why did you do that? Like, and also, where's all the money that you made from me? You know what I mean? Like, where's all that gone? Like, I'm just using this as an example, but like, you would question so much. You know what I mean? Like, why did my parents do that to me?
Yeah. And like, even if you didn't question that, and even if because then you would probably think this is normal, right? So like, you're raised in that environment, so you think, okay, it's normal for me to broadcast my life, but then why are people not watching me now? And then you start to question your self-worth. You're like, oh my God, like, am I not pretty enough? Am I not interesting enough? And it's like, those are not things that like, it's already hard enough growing up and being a teenager and growing into adulthood. But imagine doing that in the public eye and not even really having a say ever in it.
Exactly.
And it's like the Truman Show. Have you ever seen the Truman Show?
Yeah, I did see the Truman Show. It is like that. It's like, and he didn't have a choice in that matter. You know what I mean? And he was forced in that situation. And it's interesting because you look at a lot of like, again, look at the celebrity space, not talking about certain celebrities, because some of them are like, but a lot of celebrities that have kids, they try to keep them as much as they can out of the public eye. Like, they cover them when the paparazzis are there. They don't want their kids being exposed to that life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I can't think of anything worse, especially for celebrities. I can't think of anything worse than like putting, your precious little kid out there for the world to criticize and the world to like,
Exactly. Well, and this is it. This is another thing, is the world of social media, and as you know, and as I know as well, can be a really harsh place. And you're literally putting your kids out to a field of where there's multiple keyboard warriors and bullies. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's just, there's just
let kids be kids.
I know. There's just so much wrong with it. And it just really, really bothers me. And
I know. There's some channels that I used to like. I used to kind of like the daily vlogging thing. So there's some channels I used to watch, and then just, if they become more and more like kid focused, I'm just like, I don't know, maybe I'm just a cold hearted soul, but I'm just not interested in watching little kids running around.
No. Well, and it's not just about them being cute little kids running around. It's the fact that
it's a little icky.
Yeah. And that those kids don't have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
They're being filmed.
Yeah.
And, again,
it's like, when are you going to stop?
Exactly.
When's it going to stop?
It just feels wrong.